Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Rex Bear. First, a couple of announcements. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. It's also the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, where you find some of your favorite podcasts. Forbidden Knowledge News is always available on Rokfin, Odyssey, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Our social media is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out Rokfin. This is where you get our premium content. You also get all the premium content from every creator on Rokfin for only $10 a month. Just go to rokfin.com/FKN Plus to sign up. That is ROKFIN.com/FKN Plus. And you can just click the link in the description. All our links are right there in the description. Today I want to welcome back to the show Rex Bear. He is a researcher and host of The Leak Project. Rex, welcome back. How you doing?
Great. How the heck are you?
I am amazing, dude. Thank you so much for coming back on. This is going to be a wonderful time. And I was just telling you, over here at Forbidden Knowledge News, we occasionally do a very special episode called Conspiracy Buffet. And this is where we discuss your favorite, my favorite, and maybe we'll even make up some new conspiracies today. But it's always a good time with the Conspiracy Buffet. But it's been a long time since you've been on. Remind the audience that may not be familiar with you a little about yourself and what goes on at the Leak Project.
I'm out here in Southern Colorado, just having a blast. You know, we have been uncovering all sorts of cool stuff. And I've been going a lot to Dulce lately, right? And Dulce, New Mexico. And we picked up some weird bogeys out there the other day, some space ninjas. I don't know what they were, but they were definitely something in the air making like pulsing light and then just disappearing. It was weird. So Southern Colorado, there's a lot of stuff that goes on out here. Cattle mutilations, UFOs, the Phil Schneider story, which I'm kind of skeptical towards. I know he had a weird passing, like the way that he died. There were some photos around the internet afterwards that made it look like it wasn't what the official story was. So then a lot of times people think, well, then that must have been aliens because he was talking about aliens and now he's dead.
Right.
Well, he was also talking bad about a lot of politicians, local politicians, I heard. So I don't know, man. But there's definitely
apparently with the Phil Schneider thing, his hand injury was like a childhood thing that he lied about or somehow got, misconstrued as an alien injury from a laser gun or some shit. So,
yeah, that's kind of weird, right? Yeah, going from a childhood injury to a lasers shooting off your fingers. Yeah, something's going on there for sure. Now, there is something under the mesa, though. What is it? I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's an alien base. I think it's actually an ancient civilization that had like an underground dwelling there. And something, I think the military blew it up and retrofitted it. Now I think they're hanging out there and doing pharmaceutical experiments. How's that for a conspiracy?
Oh man, I love that. That is like a banger to start out with. I love like areas of high strangeness like Skinwalker Ranch, the Meadow, all these places that suddenly have all this three-letter agency interest, black project interest, aerospace companies. I'm sure Ryan Burns. He had to sign a few NDAs because aerospace companies coming out to his property on Skinwalker wanting to like dig underground and look for anomalies and things. And that's very interesting that aerospace companies are not looking in space for the aliens or anomalies. They're looking underground. Just like you said, and these areas are super hotspots of all kinds of craziness. But I think maybe if we started looking underground instead of like in the sky, we could probably get a lot further. And I'm sure these guys with those black projects already know a lot more than they'll ever let on.
Oh, absolutely. And when you think about the artifacts and the archaeological digs, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a CIA agent that that has an archaeological job as well. Like that's his front, but they have CIA spies that go on a bunch of these archaeological digs, not the simple stuff, but when they think there might be something there, what a better position, right? And missionaries, and they go to your house. You're like, hey, would you like to read the Book of Mormon? Okay, I got all the notes on these guys. It's so cool. I've got a lot of family that's Mormon, and I'm starting to wonder. I'm like, I wonder if any of my cousins work for the CIA. I'm like, probably not. I got one cousin that does dairy work, and I got another cousin that does home appraisals, and then I got another cousin that just came back from the Army, so he's kind of chilling out at home. But yeah, it's interesting to think about the possibilities. Now, these archaeological digs, Bob Lazar claims that they found alien technology from one of these archaeological digs, and that would make sense. Now, if you're looking for this stuff in space, it's going to be a lot more difficult to find. And maybe, I don't know. I'm just speculating there. But the thing about Dulce is who's the guy, Bill Burns or Bob Burns, the guy that used to run the UFO magazine? He might even still run it. And there was a TV show out for a while. You know I'm talking about.
I know you're talking about. I don't remember his name. Yeah.
I interviewed him a couple years ago, and he was telling me some stuff about Dulce and how one of the sheriffs went out there, saw a helicopter over a cow, and the cow birthed the calf. He went up to the cow, the helicopter flies off, and there's a calf with a human head.
No. Holy shit.
He says the photos are online. So, and then a month later, one of the senators passes a law that there will be no human experiments, like human animal chimeras. I think I'm saying that right, or chimeras. Yeah. And I wonder if there's some type of, if there was that information got leaked. He found out that they're doing experiments with animals and humans, and so he signed the bill. That's speculation too. But I've talked to a lot of the locals that see stuff in the area, and I've met them separately. They don't even know each other, and they've told me similar stories about these lights that will dance and fly over their head and then take off. I talked to a cop 5 years ago out there. I don't know if he's still a police officer out there or not. He was actually going to take us all the way up to the mesa. We had to turn around about halfway. Real nice guy. He called his chief to see if he could take us out there. The chief said no. He said, F it, I'm going to do it anyway. We're like, all right. So, but we made it about halfway up, and then we turned around. But he told me that when he was a kid, him and his sister saw these lights on top of the mesa that were dancing, like flying over their heads for about half an hour, and then they took off. So I've talked to 3 locals that have seen these lights. I've also talked to a local that saw a UFO fly into the mesa during the daytime, a rod-shaped UFO. She's also seen what appears to be like a matrix net over the mesa.
Whoa.
And I know that's really weird because the mesa is huge. She said she was outside. She was sitting on one of her lawn chairs, and she saw this grid over the mesa. So she had to stand up and like rub her eyes and make sure that she wasn't looking through like one of the the chairs that she has. She said they have like these.
Yeah.
If you were to look through the chair exactly, you might get something similar to what she saw. But anyway, she just had to clarify that she wasn't losing her mind. She gets up, she walks around, she realizes that literally, and this is in the daytime. This is in the daytime. This isn't at night. And there's people that live out there. So there's parts of the mesa that are extremely secluded. But if you go to Dulce, so you go into Dulce, and the mesa is kind of hanging out right here. Here's Dulce, here's the mesa, but it's still a part of Dulce, New Mexico. So there's not a lot of people out on this side of the mesa. There's quite a bit of people leading up to the mesa below. And I've been on the back side of the mesa. I've been all around the mesa. I've been around Archuleta Mountain. We followed the railroad tracks. Another friend of mine that lives out here talked to one of the locals that recently passed. And when he was in the Army, he was a part of a digging crew where they were digging into the mesa years and years and years ago. And then they had to turn around when they got to a certain point. I followed these railroad tracks. I did find railroad tracks. I followed them to a property that's for sale. And I think they want like $4 million for this property. It's beautiful. It's got tons of land. It's got its own river. It's got its own bridge that goes over the property. And these railroad tracks, this is the furthest that I've seen these. They don't use these railroad tracks. I can tell you that. These are old railroad tracks. They've got a new system now. And then I've talked to other locals. One of the gals I told you that's seen the grid and seen stuff flying the day, she's heard stuff on her property for quite some time. And then she said she got really happy when her husband heard it too. It sounded like something was underneath them, like something underground, moving, like a train or something. Then I've got another friend that lives off of the highway, and he's in Alpine Springs, which is 45 minutes, which is an hour away from Dulce. It's actually even more than an hour away from Dulce. But the way that it's positioned, if you were to have underground railroad systems, he hears it too. He hears it right under his house, and he's right off the highway. So these railroad systems that are underground span for thousands of miles. I would not be surprised if they connect to Los Alamos and other places around the world. But if you get into the conspiracy aspect of this, the locals, one of the natives that I've talked to in Dulce said that his grandma used to warn him about the small people, about the little people. And I thought, is that like the Greys? The small people are not the Greys. The Greys, you want to get into a whole other conspiracy. The Greys actually could be more of a government creation than extraterrestrials. But that doesn't mean that extraterrestrials aren't real, and that doesn't mean that there aren't EVANs, electronically engineered biological entities that are designed to travel space. The problem is anytime somebody has a legit abduction and the government finds out about it, they're going to probably, well, I shouldn't say the government, but there's going to be organizations that are going to have somebody abduct you also to mess with your mind. Give you a prime example. Have you ever talked to Whitley Strieber or Travis Walton? But look, Whitley Strieber, Whitley Strieber's who I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
I have not talked to Whitley yet. No.
Nice guy, super nice guy. He's one of the people that put, I would say, these abduction cases on the map because of what happened to him. Now, he was definitely abducted. There's no question. The question is, and this is my question, I don't know, but after I interviewed him and he described what happened to him, he described this object that they probed him with to extract fluids. And I said, man, that sounds like a veterinarian tool, like a tool a veterinarian would use to extract fluids from a horse. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I thought to myself, would extraterrestrials from Zeta Reticuli use a tool that a veterinarian uses to extract bodily fluids? Or would that be possibly somebody here?
Yes.
I don't know.
I think you're onto something there, because I think that there is a huge wave of misinformation coming across the whole UFO community. I think that there's some psychological operations going on, just like you said. There's possibly a lot of military abductions going on, a lot of people being taken to push a certain UFO narrative into the consciousness. I think that's what's happening with a lot of this kind of secret space program stuff. Maybe these people are going to 20 and back programs to Mars to fight aliens, or maybe it's just a psychological operation or some kind of hallucinogenic program or mind control program to push a false narrative into the community. We know that there are plenty of people that are infiltrating the UFO community, from formerly three-letter agencies, counterintelligence officers that are supposedly on our side to help disclosure, but I don't believe any of that. I don't believe anything that's coming out of our government or the mainstream media about what they're trying to tell us about UFOs. I think that this is something much bigger than they already know what's going on, but they're trying to misguide the public for whatever reason. What do you think about that?
I think that the real agenda, there are absolutely, I believe in extraterrestrials and higher intelligences and interdimensional beings. But it seems to me that there is a group that has been influencing humanity for thousands of years. You can go back like the Renaissance times, which I know was about 1,000 years ago, approximately, less than that, but 700 years ago, 600 years ago. But you go back to paintings that are 1,000 years old, you can see UFOs in these paintings. When people are praying, you'll see beams that are hitting their heads. And then that's so most people think that they're extraterrestrials. They're from outer space. Well, what if these beings that are shown and written about in these biblical texts and these pieces of art and the experiences, like, let me put it this way. I've got a great friend. I've got several great friends. I've got family members that have experiences with what some people would call the Greys. And they're not even convinced that they're extraterrestrial. They know they're real. They know that you can actually physically catch them. You can actually grab them. One of my friends says, if you grab them, they don't like that. They freak out. But he had to live, like, they don't mess with them anymore that I know of. But he's had very high level jobs in the military and the government and certain projects. And he's been messed with by these things for years. And I thought to myself, man, if you are, working for the military or certain projects, these beings would want to keep tabs on you also. And so, but once again, I don't think they're necessarily alien. A lot of times in other texts, they're referred to as demons and there's other terms, but then the term demon itself has been demonized by the Catholic religion and ignorance, not knowing. So the question is, what are these things? Imagine something coming into your room, like vibrating into your room, doing something to you, and then leaving. That stuff to me, that sounds like, okay, if that is legit, and I think that it sounds like some type of hybridization program where they're extracting fluids for, I don't know, maybe they want your DNA extended with certain other DNAs. You know, I mean, look at how many animals humanity has created from crossbreeding. So why wouldn't other species do it? But what about beings that could just be a part of like the fourth dimension? I sense a lot of fourth dimension stuff with these grays or whatever they are. They kind of go in and out of these dimensions. I mean, we only see 0.01% of the electromagnetic light spectrum. And so if people do see cryptids or something that they don't explain, how come we're so quick to turn it off and say that it's not real or it's fake or it's messing with our minds? But you got to use discernment too, right? Like, hold on a second. You got to have an open mind, but your mind can't be so open that your brain falls out on the sidewalk. And that's what I'm saying. Like you were bringing up the Mars and back shit. Pardon me, man. But if you went to Mars and the military had you go to Mars to fight for 20 years, they're not going to bring you back in an older person's body and let you talk about it at conferences. Okay. I mean, there's something more to the story there. And like, I know people that have entire TV programs with other networks and they claim to have, and I've interviewed these people and I asked them questions very strategically because I thought when I'm interviewing them that they're full of it. And I would ask them questions strategically that proved to me that they're full of shit.
Right.
Like they're making stuff up, you know? Oh, you spent 20 years in Mars and all you can tell me is you saw space spiders. Really? That's all you got? I mean, come on, man. So I think some people just like to make stuff up. I think some people like the fame. And I think some people genuinely have some type of, like I interviewed one gal once that told me she had a photographic memory. And then I asked her who hypnotized her and she couldn't remember. I'm like, well, wait a second. Now, then I thought I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe your hypnotherapist hypnotized you to forget her name and remember everything else, you know, but realistically, she's probably, I don't know. I just, so there's so many people out there that I've interviewed over the past 7 years that are so legit and on fire, cutting edge. You know, they're telling you stuff that's going to blow your mind. And you got to kind of take the good with the bad. You got to use discernment, right? So, but I've noticed over the years when I talk to people and they, you know, they watch the shows and I don't want to lead people down the wrong path. You know, I started this kind of like coast to coast. I'll interview anybody. And gee, that got me to the point where I was interviewing people that were talking about clouds being alien food and clouds are being. I was like, okay, I can't just interview anybody anymore. We got to change this up a little bit. Yeah. But it's you know, we've refined it over the years, right? But I was talking to my dad about this, like, and I was like, you know, what do you think I should do, Dad? Do you think I should, you know, I don't want to send people down the wrong direction. I don't want to be the guy that says I know everything either. You know, I don't want to be that guy. Don't you hate that guy that knows everything? And
well, like that's why, like, especially if we're getting into something really weird, like you're saying, you know, clouds are alien food or something, you got to guess that you're not sure about. That's why, you know, I always say ultimate belief is very dangerous, and you should always pose these very sensitive topics as a question. You know, is this real? Could this possibly be a thing? What do you think? And people that are just coming out and dedicated to the craziness, well, they're going to eventually get outed, and it never lasts forever for these guys. But we're in a very important time for this, a very critical time, because there's an attack on alternative thinking. There's an attack on critical thinking. They're trying to paint people that are critical thinkers as domestic terrorists, as dangerous. They're even making documentaries following around, you know, conspiracy theorists, talking about, you know, their craziest things and you know, making them look crazy, making the whole community look crazy, and it's very strategic right now. This is what they're one of the, I believe, last ditch attempts to try and silence alternative thinking. I don't know, but it is a very critical time we're in, especially with all the craziness going on.
They've always been doing this, you know. I mean, look at the Tavistock Institute. Look at the controlling mechanisms with television and the 440 hertz grid system to keep people in disharmony versus harmony. 432 is harmonious, 440 is disharmonious. And you can test that yourself. The guitar, just tune it to 432, put the string next to your chest and pull it. And then, do the same thing with 440. 432, you'll feel something move up. 440, you feel something move down. And it's very simple to do, just these little things that people don't think about. But if you keep people in a perpetual state of confusion, you brought up the alternative thinking and the critical thinking. They want you to think alternatively. They don't want you to think critically. They don't want you to think. They want you to be a repeater. Don't be a researcher, be a repeater. Yeah. When they say something on the Communist News Network or, MSNBC, or they're all the same. Fox is the same. It's just like it uses the opposite script, right? So it's like red, blue. It's like a football team. It's a football team that's two football teams that are competing against each other. And they don't care who's right and who's wrong. They just want to win. So it's turned into a shit show. They really should have an independent party out there, in my opinion. And did you know they had independent parties back in the 60s that actually ran and did okay? Now you hear of independent party, like, what's that? Independent party. But it's just two sides of the same coin. Now, remember the whole MAGA thing and when back the midterm elections were finally, dude, I've gotten 50 freaking spam things for vote this, vote that, vote this, vote that. How the hell did you get my number? If I put stop every time I got a freaking spam for vote a certain way over the past few weeks, I don't know what I'd do. I wouldn't be able to do any podcasts. I just have to put stop. It's just insane. And so I'm thinking about this whole political thing. It's all crap. It's all garbage. None of it's real. All they do is talk about stuff. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk. They're bad. We're good. They're bad. We're good. Do we do, or else you're a conspiracy theorist. I know what conspiracy theorist was coined by the CIA in the 50s. Anyway, it's just all BS. But
they got to keep us divided at the same time, make us hate each other too.
You're right. And the problem is there are extremes on the right. There's extremes on the left too, though. Yeah. But when you got people that are going around being like, man, you're like, I'll interview people. I interviewed this one gal, a pretty gal, and there was this psychotic guy that came on the comment section saying that she's a 12-foot reptilian baby eater, and he's going to come get her, and and then he's like, "Go Russia, go MAGA," and I'm like, dude, what the F is wrong with you? You're out of your freaking mind, and you need to get some help. So there's that extreme. And so the media will push those extremes. The media will push those people to the edge. That person that thinks that, that she's a 12-foot reptile and there's, that person might at one point not have thought that way. That person at one point might have been kind of on the fence, but they were watching so much stuff about these 12-foot tall reptilians that eat babies. Did you see that troll session where that lady went to the political speech? Was it Cortez, or I don't know what the lady's name was doing the speech, and she was wearing a shirt that said "Eat the babies," and she's like, "I really like what you're doing, and I know that you like your professor, and the professor says we have to eat dead people, and I don't think that's going far enough. I really respect you, but I think we need to eat the babies. We need to eat the babies and bomb Russia." And did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Dude, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. This is 1 minute, okay? It's absolutely hysterical. But the thing is, she was a troll, and most people thought that she was just like a crazy cat lady. And
oh man,
she played it off perfect.
You're right, man. They push extremes on both sides. It's like they're normalizing the most wacky of mental illnesses on either side, the right or left, and then they put those people in the forefront to make you think this is how you should act if you're for this side, and this is how you should act if you're for this side, which is completely fucking nuts on both sides. Right.
And oops, I was trying to click on this. I want to watch this real quick.
Yeah,
and you know what
else?
It was Alexandria Cortez's town hall meeting was interrupted by the crazy cat lady. That's what it was. Okay. Oh, no. Let's go back to that real quick. It was so classic. Here, where is it at? Here it is.
I think a similar thing happened with that shop teacher who, put the big, huge fake boobs in, and he did that as a troll thing to kind of say, you guys are getting ridiculous with this whole, you can be whatever you want thing.
I missed that.
That was pretty funny.
Well, and then maybe that's what people that want to make a change should do that. Like comedy, use comedy, somehow, right? Like,
right.
Okay, here we go. This is it. This is it right here.
Satire is great for that stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Because of the climate crisis, we only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. Too much CO2. All of you're pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies. And this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you.
Please give a response.
Yes, I love that. Yes, dude, we do need more of that.
So no.
That was, dude, and so many people. Okay, so I have a confession. I thought that was so funny when I got invited to Disclosure Con a few years ago. I joked around about that a little bit, and I kind of kept a serious face. And some people thought I was serious. Some people started laughing, and then there was this one lady in the audience that was like, "Oh man, you got to quit recording that. You got to turn that off right now." It was so awesome. I had to do the Jeff Bezos laugh, man. The Dr. Evil. It was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. So people are fun, right? Like you got to know, you got like, do you want to be that person that repeats everything and then you realize at the end that you're an idiot and then you were duped? Or do you want to be the guy or the gal that questions things and is like, I don't know. See, because I used to be that guy that was more towards the repeater side, right? I was like, Fukushima, the world's going to end. Everybody's going to die. So I called up my dad and like, let me tell you something, man. I was so tripped out about that my dad made a comment that triggered me. And I said something that I wish I never would have said. And I still regret it to this day. And you know why, folks? It's because I repeated some BS on the internet and I didn't do my own research and I got stuck in my own head. And how many people out there get stuck in their own head? Like they get into that conspiracy mindset so much that the endorphins start going. It's almost like a high, right? Like it is.
Oh yeah.
Like you're like, dude, the world, there's freaking 12-foot reptiles out there. Oh my gosh, man, that's crazy. And they look like hot chicks, dude. This world, But then it's like everything on this website that I used to blog on a lot, it was very doomish. Not everything, but a lot of it's very doomish. Now, actually, it's weird because I go back and I look at these blogs that I did from 10 years ago when I was talking about nanotechnologies and geoengineering and mind control tech and fungus and all this kind of like mind control fungus stuff that I was blogging about 10 years is actually more mainstream now.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has actually come to fruition. And I can show you these blogs. I've actually done videos before. I showed these blog posts that I did 10 years ago. And this stuff is coming to fruition. But the super doom stuff like Fukushima, end of the world, all that kind of nonsense. No, it didn't happen. And we're still here and we can still go spend $7 at $7 for a coffee that tastes burnt. And then you got to tip them $3. You're out $10 for a latte. Just drink your, I've been drinking my own lately, but yeah. So like use discernment because you know what? If you're following that wrong rabbit hole and you think you're doing the right thing and you're all, hey, hey, everybody, they're 12-foot tall reptiles, these hot chicks in bikinis. Like you're not helping anybody. And you might've started for the right reason, right? You started because you want to help. You're like, no, man, the world's effed up. People are doing bad things. I want to help. Well, stay focused. Because you can help and you will, and you are helping. You got to help by doing the research and digging into things. And then, and here's another thing that I thought was interesting. The whole story about Pelosi and supposedly some guy broke in and her husband. And then there's that tweet out the next day where Elon's like, well, maybe there's more to it. Right. And then there's this new conspiracy going around about how it's his, it was some paid lover or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, well, that's interesting. And I had brought that up and to my dad and he's like, well, yeah, but think about, that's like the total opposite of the other. So So it's either a crazy guy that breaks in that's pro MAGA, or else it's a gay prostitute that's going out with Pelosi's husband. It's like, those are two extremes, right? Like, you ever want, and maybe one of them's true. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it's weird how there's always two extremes in the answers on the left and the right. I was like, whoa, you're right. That's interesting. It made me think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're only presented the most extreme possibilities, and from what I found, the middle path is usually where you want to head. And you're absolutely right. There's been enough conspiracies that have been actually proven true in the past couple of years to where we don't need to really make up crazy stuff and not do our research anymore. There's enough truth that's come out in the past couple of years where we can follow some pretty solid paper trails and things like that to find the truth about things. But it's fascinating where we're headed these days. There are people that I never thought would be awakening right now, family members, friends, people doing critical thinking, becoming more spiritual, not participating in what they consider BS, and I think it's a very wonderful time. I think we have also people starting their own communities, starting their own systems, and starting their own forms of entertainment. I don't see Hollywood and this old traditional system lasting anymore. I think we're going to be shifting towards more independent forms of entertainment, like podcasting, like the videos that yourself are doing. And because people want to see real things, they want to see truth, they want to hear genuine people talking now and not just BS scripted crap anymore. So I like that, where we're headed in those respects.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as conspiracies go, going into a deep conspiracy, it could be a lot of fun. But you got to have that mindset like, oh, maybe, probably not. And when I say that, I'm referring to like you said at the very beginning, look, maybe we can make up a couple good conspiracies. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can, because there's so much stuff out there that if you put two and two together, then you ask the question. But if you ask the question in the sense of like asking, like you had brought up, instead of saying this is what it is, then that can be, that can take you to the truth. That can take you to that mind expansion and to understand more and to realize more. But to find something that's so extreme and then, like you said, justify it as absolute truth or belief, that's when you get in trouble. And let me tell you, the mafia, the media mafia and the medical mafia industrial complex does a great job at using what people say against them and out of context and in ways that might be completely different. Like you might say a joke 10 years ago, and if you get to a position of power 10 years later and you're stepping on certain toes, well, they could take that verbiage and twist it and make it, like a character attack, right? So that's why I don't even watch the news, man. Like I used to want to watch all the news, or I'd watch MSNBC, NBC, Fox, and Newsweek and all this other stuff. Yeah. But really, it all comes from the same source. It all comes from the AP, and then they just package it their own way so they can promote it a certain way. Yeah. And you're not helping people by promoting these extremes on the right or the left, for the red or the blue, and they both do it. But if you're on one side or the other, oftentimes you're just going to realize you're just going to see what you want to see. That's why, you got to step out of that and you got to look at the whole thing, and you'll start to understand a lot more, and you'll feel a lot better about yourself because you won't be feeding this system. You'll save the energy for yourself. They take your energy, folks. Like how many people watch the news and they think it's going to be different, right? You turn on the news and then 5 minutes later, you're freaking pissed. And it's designed to do that. It's not going to change. It's weaponized propaganda. They'll put truth in it, but they'll put truth in it in a way that really pisses you off, and then it's feeding them. And so that's where I'm at, man. The news, no thanks.
Right on. Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't watch any of the news. I go to definitely all the my favorite independent sources and independent broadcasters that are actually coming out with their own wonderful research and information. And we're entering a new era for that, where not many people are listening to the news anymore. So it's a beautiful thing, I think. I want to go back to the weird, though. I want to get back to the nature
political
of
news.
reality.
Political news. I'll watch news on ancient archaeological sites, but like political news, no thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, so getting back to the weird, I've had plenty of guests on that are into the possibility that our reality is holographic, simulated, that nothing is really physical, and those are some of my favorite conversations. And more recently, I've had a few guests that we kind of did a back and forth on the possibilities of what we understand as paranormal activity, what we understand as aliens or outside influences or interdimensional beings, and we threw out the possibility of what if it is just all us? What if this is some sort of simulated reality, like a learning ground, a video game that we pop our consciousness into, and we have to, the slate is wiped clean once we're in here. We don't remember who the hell we are, but the goal is to spiritually evolve our consciousness and remember who we are. But, in order to do that, we have to go through trials and tribulations, and maybe what we understand as paranormal activity or aliens is like our real selves outside of this simulation, video game, whatever you want to call it, that is giving us cues. And what better way to do that than with maybe a ghost or an alien or something like that we're sending ourselves to help ourselves along and level us up a bit. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, do you think that Whitley Strieber came back to himself with that probe and said, hey, I'm from the future?
Well, you see, I think there's nefarious things that could be possibly going on with us inside the simulation, maybe with, other entities trying to trick us to keep us in this certain mindset, in this certain vibratory state to where we don't awaken and realize where we're coming from. But I just thought it was very interesting to consider that.
It is. And in certain circumstances, that could absolutely be a possibility. I think that the majority of the stuff, though, that people have with these, ET or interdimensional or shadow ops, I think most of that stuff. Well, here's the thing. You could explain many of these anomalies and many of these parts in a holographic universe. Uh-huh. And that was actually one of the first things that I blogged about was are we living in a simulation? Because if you look at the universe and you zoom in on things, it's pretty much empty space. It's over 99% empty space all around us. And our DNA breaks down into dual binary code. We live in an electric universe. Everything is electric. Everything is vibration, and sound itself is vibration that creates symbols, and symbols are embedded in our subconscious, and it's light, and it's different stages of light and somatics. And then if you read the biblical texts, some of these texts, I think, make a lot of sense. Some of these texts, I think, are far from making sense. But for example, in the beginning was the Word. The Word is a sound. Sound is frequency. Frequency is energy. Energy is vibration. So that makes sense. And if you look at the largest scale of the universe with computer models, it looks like these clusters of galaxies are very similar to clusters of synapses in the human brain. They look almost identical. So it's as above, so below. I have questioned before if Enki time-shared us and convinced us to go into these pods. Like, hey, man, come check this out. You're going to love it. You put on this headset and bang, here we are. Yeah. And that would make a fun film. I think that would make a great film. I'm working on the side. I'm putting something together where you've got Enki as the number one timeshare salesperson on the planet. And he sells, he gets everybody to go to these pods. But anyway, so if you look at the universe as a whole, and then you look at our brain and the synapses and the galaxies and the clusters of galaxies, and it's the term as above, so below, and the universe itself. And we're looking at the universe, space might not be what we think it is. It might have more to do with expansion of time. When we're looking out there, we might be looking in here. The universe might actually be you in reverse. How cool would that be?
I love that.
So, yeah. So I think we're in the mind of God. I think we're in the mind of God. And I think that when we dream, we get tastes of these dimensions. And if you've ever had a lucid dream, okay, so one of my very favorite dreams that I had was one time I was walking around, and it's so funny because now that I think about it, have you read Enki and Ninmah?
Yeah.
That tablet?
Yeah.
I think it's about 3,500 plus years old. It's an old Sumerian tablet. I've read it on the Oxford's website. They translated Enki and Ninmah.
I think I've actually heard you read it too.
Okay. Yeah. So Enki and Ninmah are making people, right? And they're drinking beer and they're making
Yeah.
people, and they're making mistakes along the way. But in this dream I had way before I had ever read this tablet. And in this dream, I was actually kind of in a laboratory. I don't know if you call it a laboratory. It was different maybe, but kind of a laboratory. And I was like making people. Literally, I was making people with my mind. And I was making mistakes. I'm like, oops, this one I made wrong. And so, but the reason I'm not bringing that up because I think I'm Enki by any means. No, I know I'm not Enki. I'm just bringing that up because it was a dream that I had that kind of reminds me of the dream that, or the tablet that Enki is in. And then I think about the mind of God itself. And so God thinks it, God creates it, this universal deity, the universal divine providence. And so within God are many gods and many worlds and universes and realities and dimensions. To go outside of God, though, would be impossible because everything is God. Right. But then it's also different. So then I've thought about that before too. Like, so you're saying that everything's God, the good and the bad, the ugly, the beautiful? In a sense, yes, but also no. Like God is so much more than that. That might be an aspect of God. But God itself is so far supreme over what my mind can comprehend right now in this physical vessel that I can attempt to understand a glimpse, but I'm certainly not going to claim that I understand in full. And I think that would be selfish and ignorant. It is fascinating though, when you look at the analogies or the comparisons of the God mind and how beautiful it is to dream.
Yeah. Now you lean more towards that. It is something more of a source that we're all part of this one creator being, and there's some that are of the belief that was once true, but we may have been infiltrated by some kind of celestial AI, some kind of entity that is keeping us in a lower state of vibration and keeping us kind of confused as to who we are, like the Gnostic view. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's absolutely a possibility. And the Gnostic stuff, I've read the Gnostic texts many times. The Secret Book of John is one of my favorite texts. And I used to look at these archons the archons aren't what people think they are. Most people describe these archons as these parasitic entities or these parasitic worms. And the archons, and there might be entities, like I think there's entities like that, but the archons described in the Secret Book of John, archon means ruler, right? It's a leader, it's a ruler. Archons, it's talking about the universe. It's talking about the Milky Way. It's talking about the amount of days that we have in the year. It's talking about the body parts. And like it's saying, so it's more astral theology,
right? More
metaphorical versus, when it describes Yaldabaoth creating gods in his image, and he thinks he's the only God. And that, and then you start to think, well, Yaldabaoth's so evil because, well, no, man, think about it. Imagine if you were made like Yaldabaoth. Like imagine the divine feminine creates you and then she's like, oops, I didn't get permission. I don't know what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to have to hide you. And so she hides him, right?
Yeah.
She hides him. And then he's like, oh man, look at me. I can do what I want. And so then they create Adam, and then they blow the life of themselves into Adam, and then Adam becomes greater than they are. And then how many times have you heard that story that the creator or the creation becomes greater than the creator? It's in movies and stories and mythologies. So, and then they take away Adam's power by locking him up and putting him in what they did when they created Adam the first time, he was a light body. And then they had to put him in a physical body to control him. So they put him in a physical body and they control him. Now he's got a lifespan. Now he's not immortal. Now he's not a light being. He's a light being within a physical vessel. So he has to follow by the rules. I mean, you have certain physical limitations in a physical body. So that's what they're describing in the Secret Book of John. They even describe how 365 demons and angels, notice the term 365 for 365 days of the week. Did they have 365 days of the week 2,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago? See, I'm real skeptical about some of these translations. Like, there's some of these Gnostic texts are describing how Jesus is laughing at Moses and all these other deities before him. I don't see Jesus doing that. I think it's made up.
Right.
I think it's, So a lot of these stories, man, that people put their heart and soul into, like, dude, God wrote this. Are you sure? Like the Bible, really? Okay, the Torah, go back to the Code of Hammurabi. Read the Code of Hammurabi and connect that to the Torah. And look at how many different rules are the same. And the Code of Hammurabi is far older than the Torah. So what's the original text?
History's a tough one, man. Even trying to look back, if we even try and look back 10 years from now, it's tough to get a beat on what really happened, much less hundreds of thousands of years ago. History's always been written, of course, by those in power and the victors, and the stories are always being altered. So the only thing we can do is look at all the most similar aspects to all these ancient texts and kind of come up with our own intuitive version of what we think is happening with this.
Yeah. And haven't you noticed all civilizations, at least pretty much all of them, have some type of god and goddess or control, rulership, kingship, spiritual aspect throughout time? Babylon was the original, I shouldn't say the original, but was a global system. And it's still to this day is a global system, but it's just got a different name to it. It's got a different vibe. It's got a different texture. It's got a different taste, a different feel. But underneath all that, you'll see the same ingredients. Just cooked differently.
100%. Yeah, man, it's crazy when we're looking at, I hate to see what future generations have to deal with, because we have a period that we're going through now where a lot of history is being intentionally changed and erased, and a lot of the historical characters that we see even in movies aren't even the same as what they were being portrayed as 10 years ago. So we're constantly shifting and changing our own history, and we are indeed, like Graham Hancock says, a species with amnesia. I don't see how we can tell where we're coming or going with the current form of record keeping that we've been having.
Yeah. Now, I think here's one thing that was pretty cool. I talked to Billy Carson yesterday, and he was showing these photos. He was actually in the King's Hall in Egypt, like the original king list in Egypt. And if we could learn the hieroglyphics, what they really mean and what they truly represent, we could get a huge portion of our history back. They're telling us what they're doing. I mean, they left that knowledge for us, but the problem is it's so, where are we going to find the original, what is it called? Not Atlas, but
the ciphers.
The ciphers. Yeah. The Rosetta Stone, the ciphers. Exactly. Where are we going to find the ciphers? And will we get back to in an electric universe, electricity is everywhere. So we have been manipulated into using certain energy sources for fuel that corporations can control. But there was a time when they weren't using gasoline to power up these stargates and these massive pyramid generators that are built on specific ley lines of the earth. They were harnessing the energy of the earth and of the stars and creating this harmonious structure around the world. I mean, you could live in perpetuity in a system like this because your body is constantly regenerating itself. Even your DNA was designed at a certain point to not necessarily turn off, but the whole youth thing should be in perpetuity. You should be able to live forever. Something happened. Now, if you're a light body, you are forever. You just transform into different energies and different sources. But as a physical body, if we can get that link back where we can have the perpetual DNA and connect our mind to that, then we can live in multiple dimensions at once. And I think people need to embrace this life more, especially those that are very have under the mindset where the carrot at the end of the stick is, heaven's going to be so amazing. And this is just a test. And look, heaven is going to be amazing. And yes, this is a test. Enjoy this test, have as much fun and be as big of a influencer as you can for the better. If that's your choice, if that's your path, but follow your path. If you can follow your path, everything will fall into place. You're going to have trials and tribulations. And if you don't have, here's the thing. Do you have a pulse? Because if you have a pulse, you've probably got bills and issues. I'm just saying. I don't know anybody that doesn't have bills and issues.
Right.
So turn those into a positive, turn those into opportunities, and, follow your path. Because if you follow your path, things will fit, and you'll make a much bigger impact, and you'll have a lot more fun, and you'll feel a lot better. Primordial. You'll feel your spark, your flame, your inner flame will be like, you'll be on fire. You're going to love it. So do it.
Hell yeah, man. Now, for the last few minutes we have, let's talk about our future and the possibilities with the future. Like you were saying, I agree with you about ancient Egyptians and what they were trying to tell us. They were trying to teach us, how God was within, and all the answers that we need are all within ourselves. And we have this new age that we're heading to, where we're being pushed into a technological transhuman age where we want to find God and the answers through technology and the opposite of ourselves. And they have very powerful factions that are trying to push humanity to these directions, to lose traditional spirituality and knowledge of who we are, and to gain knowledge of everything through hooking us up to technology and through these external means. And I see this battle right now. I believe we're in a spiritual war right now. I think we're in a very critical time where it's up to us to make the decision on what direction we want to go. And I want to get your thoughts on, where do you think we're headed in the future? Are we going to metaverse world where we're all going to be plugged in and we won't have a choice and we'll be very controlled with no spirituality? Or will we kind of stop and put the brakes on where we're headed and maybe go the opposite direction?
I see 3 timelines. I see 1, people will be put into pods. You're going to have entire stadiums filled with pods, pod people. It's going to be the prequel to the Matrix. People are going to go into these pods. They're going to be given, if you're in this Matrix, this like virtual reality world, you're going to be able to live multiple lives in a matter of minutes. So like you could live an entire lifetime that feels like a lifetime in 1 minute. So imagine living 50,000 lifetimes in 50,000 minutes. What does that break down to? 10, 9.
I'm no good at math.
Okay. So anyway, my point is, you could literally, they're working on technologies where you feel like you've lived 50 years, but it's just a matter of minutes in this machine. First, it was on Black Mirror. And then I talked to somebody else, and I have to research this more, but he said that there's actually programs in play right now where they're attempting to see if they can do experiments to manipulate time in the eyes of the perceiver, for like a prison sentence, as an example. Oh, you got to serve this much. Well, plug and play. And there was a few years ago, DARPA was doing experiments, and they were offering, people that they're like, hey, you want to be a part of this experiment? We got to sign this waiver that they could give you instant downloads, but it heated up your brain. So they had to basically imagine heat maps, energy going into your brain, creating these wrinkles in your brain of knowledge using a machine that actually burns it like a quick flash. Your brain is literally a flash drive. And holy shit, I know Japanese now. Whoa.
Yeah.
But my brain's fried, literally. So there's a lot of projects behind the scenes going on. And I see one aspect of that is people are going to go into the machine, and they will actually be a battery source for the machine. And there will be elites that will use them as a mining mechanism. They'll actually mine their thoughts. They'll mine their body, and their body will be a part of this operating system that will link up with other people that are part of it. So it'll be like a quantum computer system, essentially, that will be feeding off of the people. You will also have those that will choose not to go down that path, and that will continue to do what they're doing, like you and me. Like we're doing research, we're doing the best that we can with the resources that we have. And me anyway, I mean, I guess I could do better. I can always do better. So I'm not saying I'm doing the best, but I do a lot of, I put a lot of hours into this. I put a lot of freaking hours into this. I think about all the money that I've made with Leak Project. Most of the money that I've made, I've put back into Leak Project and equipment and going out on scene. So I'm like, man, maybe I should have saved up some of that money. But, I mean, it is what it is. So I want to make as big of an impact as I can to help as many people as I can. And look, I still got my issues, right? I'm not perfect. I got a temper, I can get my buttons pushed just like everybody else. So, but I'm working on it. And that's that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So if you got your opportunities, hey, we all got opportunities. Just work on it. Be the best you can be. And I see a future of incredible opportunities. I see a future of inventions and innovations and a system of governance, which is far different than what we're dealing with now. You're not going to have all these useless politicians, all these useless pulls of ticks that really just cause problems, that really just cause division and keep people in this confusion matrix. If we got rid of like 99% of the politicians out there, I'm just asking, if we were to say, you're fired, what would happen to the world? 99% of the politicians now have to go find other jobs. What happens to the world? What do you think? Could you imagine, like, if we got rid of 99% of the politicians, 99% of the rules and laws that are really just designed for certain corporations to profit off of, and then meanwhile, you got these corporations that put forever chemicals in the water because they've got enough money to pay off certain people to get that. Oh, it's just a little bit, and then they blame you for having a car that runs on gasoline. I mean, what's the problem? Get a freaking clue. It's not your fault. It's a freaking car. Runs on gas. Who's pulling the gas out of, like, who keeps suppressing technology? And the whole electrical thing. Look, electrical cars are cool, but is that the solution? I mean, what happens when there's a hurricane? What happens when there's a major storm? What do you do with these batteries when they're no good anymore? Where are you going to put them?
Yeah. Yeah, it's causing more harm to they don't have the resources to convert to electric like they want to. So that's a pipe dream anyway. But yeah, man, I think
it's a control mechanism. It's a control mechanism. You know what I mean? Oh, you got to plug in. You got to get your energy. You're going to have, if everything runs on electric, you think they're going to let you get your electric via solar power? Hell no. They'll make that illegal, like in certain states where they make it illegal to run rainwater. Unless we follow the second path, which is get rid of the useless crooks and use innovation. And look, I think government is a good thing. Government can be a good thing. I don't have anything against the government. I mean, I love having roads to drive to work. I love having electricity. I love being able to go to the store and buy stuff. But what happens when the government gets taken over from within and is used to suppress the people? And there's just so many little things we could do to make a difference that are very practical and are very beneficial to everybody in a non-violent matter, that we could make such a big change just by thinking it into existence. Have you noticed that when you think stuff now, it comes into existence a lot faster? Have you noticed that, dude?
Yes.
Yeah. I would say that means you're on the right path. When you start having all these matrix syncs and all this stuff keeps happening, it's like, wait a second, what? I just thought of that, or I just did that, or wait, that's like, okay, something's telling you something.
Definitely. Yes, follow the synchronicities and you get some super manifestation for sure. And I've lived it myself. I've witnessed it, and we are definitely in incredible times. And I just want to back up what you said, that people need to do what their passion is, do what that makes them happy, be creative. The universe rewards all of that. If you take that first step, the universe will take 10 steps for you to help you get there in any way possible. Now, there's one more thing I want to touch on before I let you go, Rex. This is quickly becoming
real quick though.
Yeah.
Real quick. I didn't say the third thing.
Go for it. Yeah.
The third is going to be, it's going to be pretty much the same as it is now. I mean, you could choose door number 3, where you just keep doing what you're doing and you will get that continuation of life. It will be there. So I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. Like, you're either going to go into a pod or you're going to become a godlike human being. I mean, that sounds great, right? Pod, God, or godlike, I should say.
Yeah.
There's going to be people that are still going to be just waking up, going to work, doing their thing and doing the best they can to support their family and, get some sense of relief after work and after having to deal with the machine. There's still going to be, it's just going to be like it is now. Look at all these innovations that are coming out and all these inventions and stuff. You have people that are going to continue to watch. Now you will see the media is going to change a lot because they can't afford that whole woke thing where they're trying to make everybody woke.
Yeah.
It made them broke. Making everybody woke made you broke. So now we are seeing the repercussions of that, where all sorts of CEOs and high level people in certain media conglomerates are getting fired.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford it anymore.
Yeah. That's a wonderful
I think that's cool.
Yes.
Definitely. I think that's great, right? Like people, we don't want to be fake woke. We don't need to be fake woke. We can figure it out for ourselves. We don't need you telling us BS to, I like how they're really good at destroying cool words, right? Like woke, that could be a cool term, but now when you use it, it's like,
yeah, it's like, oh God.
I
Puts a
know.
bad taste
So
in
that's
your mouth.
what, yeah, they can do that. So that's the 3 timelines I see. Which door do you choose? It's totally up to you.
Right on.
No
man.
judging right here.
I love it. I love it. All right, the last thing I want to touch on is a topic that has quickly become one of my favorites, and I used to never even talk about this stuff, but Bigfoot, man, especially after living in Colorado, this is probably one of the most probable type of cryptid creatures that I believe is in our existence. Whether they're a lost hominid or like this magical ape creature or whatever it is, I believe that there's something to it, and I believe that they probably have consciousness abilities that far surpass humans. And I want to get your thoughts. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Oh man. So I have never seen a Bigfoot or a Yeti or a Sasquatch. I do think that they exist. I'm pretty convinced of that. I've got friends that have seen them, and you're not going to change their mind. Mm-hmm. And you'll see them in Kansas. You'll see them in Colorado. You'll see them in Utah. You'll see them in India. Yeah. So why is it they're there 1 second and then the next second they're gone? And I've got a pretty awesome explanation for that. And I recently talked to, let me find this guy's name. He is a doctor, and Hine is his name. Hine?
Simeon Hine?
Yes.
Yeah, I had
Simeon
him on
Hine.
recently too. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's great. Did he? Oh, so his theory, which I thought made a lot of sense about these Bigfoots, is that they are literally interdimensional, and that
they access like a fifth state of matter or something like that.
Yeah.
They can manipulate it.
Yeah. And what if we are a hybridization program, part Bigfoot, part human? That's another conspiracy that there are certain people that have some credibility. They think that they say we are we're a part of Bigfoot. And so that could explain some of our supernatural abilities. Mm-hmm. But then I don't know, man, if you're like a godlike being that comes to this planet and you hear the stories about how they look at those hot earth women.
Yeah, right.
Earth women I don't think they would look at Bigfoot and be like, oh,
yeah,
I just don't see it. Well, maybe without the hair, right? So I'm still kind of skeptical about that. And then you've heard the stories about how there was a time where we were anthropomorphic beings, and these star beings appeared, and they're like, choose the red cave or the blue cave. And then we did, and then we were separated, and that created man and woman. And that's why we feel like we're always separate from each other and So, I mean, they're cool stories, and there definitely could be some truth to it, but I don't know. I do believe in Bigfoot though. Yeah, Bigfoot. Man. I think I heard a Bigfoot once in my backyard. It was either a Bigfoot or it was the meanest freaking bear I ever heard in my life. And at the time of year it was, the bears were in hibernation. So, and unless there was one getting out, and this is in Pagosa Springs in my backyard. Now my backyard does connect to a national forest, and there are bears out there all the time, but this sucker was pissed. And it was so funny because that same day so right before I went outside, I said, I'm going to go look for Bigfoot. And then I went outside and I heard this freaking, and I was like, what the, like, dang it. I wish I had my phone on. It was wild, man. Bear, probably. Bigfoot, maybe. I'm pissed, but cool.
I love it, dude. This was fantastic, Rex. We're definitely going to have to do this sooner in the future. Before we head out, let everyone know where they can find all your wonderful content.
Yeah, check me out on YouTube, youtube.com/Clandestine Time Lord, or just type in Leak Project. And we're also on the web, leakproject.com. We do podcasts on multiple platforms, but you'll find pretty much all of our work, over 4,500 audio and video podcasts at leakproject.com. And we do free shows every day on the live stream, just sweet. So you can, yeah. And we should do this more often. Maybe we can do kind of a, like a regular thing, just talk about, and then next time you come on, I'll listen to your mindset.
For sure, man. I'm down anytime. Yes, for sure. All right, Rex. Well, this was fantastic. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening, and we will talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.
Cheers.